Welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than the usual video. This is going to be a vlog style recommendation about cottagecore. I want to specifically talk about dark cottagecore, which is an aesthetic that I love and is perfect for autumn. Cottagecore itself is all about being closer to nature, closer to the old ways and simple living. Especially in spring, we think of an English cottage on the countryside with lots of flowers and greenery, light greenery. But in the fall, dark cottagecore comes into play. And this aesthetic is more about decaying leaves and mushrooms and dark gothic whimsy. So a gothic whimsical vibe and dark creepy forests and curses, and think unseelie fae as opposed to seelie fae. Maybe some witchy vibes as well. I am someone who loves to garden, and I love the forest that surrounds my house, and I love to bring these things into my books and to read books that create this vibe that I really enjoy. So I want to talk about some dark cottagecore. I don't want to confuse this with cottagecore. That is a newer sub aesthetic of cottagecore, and it is kind of like dark cottagecore, but even darker with more horrific elements. Think Over the Garden Wall, either the show or the graphic novel, or think maybe What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I do want to do a cottagecore recommendation list, but this list itself is going to be incorporating more of a softer, dark fantasy cottagecore aesthetic. So these are going to be, I think I have 6 books here to talk about that are darker cottagecore fantasy novels that I just think that you will adore if you enjoy this aesthetic. I have here some of my favorite tea. It is a hot cinnamon tea by Harney & Sons, and it's just the perfect way to add more fall flair to your fall days. And yeah, let's just get into these recommendations. Don't let me forget to remind you, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like this type of content, and I'd love to produce more of it for you. The first book I have on this list is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is supposed to have basically peak gothic dark cottagecore vibes. This book is about Elspeth, and she needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him Nightmare, an ancient spirit trapped in her head. He protects her and keeps her secrets, but nothing comes free, especially magic. Elspeth meets a highwayman on the forest road, and things take a turn. She's thrust into a world of shadow and deception, and she joins on a dangerous quest to cure Blunder of the dark magic infecting it. I believe this book has romance as well. From the cover to the description, gives a dark cottagecore aesthetic vibe. I just can't wait to read this one. It's on my October TBR, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things. Next, I have a romance by Grace Draven. This is a fantasy romance Beauty and the Beast retelling called Entreat Me, and I loved this book when I read it. This book is about a century-old curse and a flip on the classic Beauty and the Beast story. We actually follow the eldest sister of the Beauty, and she's determined to rescue her sibling from ruin because her sister has fallen in love. She basically follows her sister to this decrepit castle and meets her sister's beloved and his older brother, who is also being cursed. this book was peak vibes with wild roses, but a dark curse. It also gets fairly spicy. So if you are into spice in your books, maybe you should check this one out. Next is a book by a favorite author of mine, Juliette Marillier. This is Wildwood Dancing. This book is technically YA, but it reads a little bit older, and not for spice or anything like that, but more so just in tone. Juliette Marillier just has this old world tone, and this is a 12 Dancing Sisters retelling that incorporates fae and curses and vampires. I believe this book is set in Transylvania, and this book is about 5 adventurous sisters, 4 dark creatures, 3 magical gifts, 2 forbidden lovers, and 1 enchanted frog. Cross the threshold into the wildwood and enter a land of magic, daring, betrayal, and true love. I gave this book 5 stars, and I really actually want to reread it sometime soon. Next, let's talk about Naomi Novik's Uprooted. This is somewhat of a controversial pick because either you love this book or you hate it. I actually really enjoyed it, though I didn't give it 5 stars, but I gave it 4 stars because the story structure is not a classic story structure. This is another Beauty and the Beast telling that takes place next to a cursed, malevolent forest. And this forest just creates a shadow over the lives of the villagers nearby. Our heroine gets chosen to live with the dragon, who is this wizard that protects the village, but also all of the villagers really fear him because he's such a powerful wizard or warlock. So this book has a romance element because of the Beauty and the Beast retelling aspect, but like I said, does take place next to and inside of a scary haunted forest setting, and it's peak dark cottagecore. I could not make this list without bringing up Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is a dark fairy tale written by T. Kingfisher, and that's what she does best. This book is about Mara, and she never really wanted to be a hero. She's really shy, she's really anxious, but she decides to rescue her sister. In order to do so, she goes to this witch who gives her 3 tasks: build a dog out of bones, sew a cloak of nettles, and capture pure moonlight in a jar. If that's not dark cottagecore, I don't know what is. Add in a cast of goofy characters that create a found family, a fairy godmother that can't seem to do anything right, a disgraced ex-knight, and like I said, the grave witch that we already discussed. And she actually has a demonic chicken. This is just super dark gothic fairy tale, and if you haven't read it yet but you like this type of aesthetic, definitely this is just perfection. Next, I have one of my favorite books of the year, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I love the way that this book discusses fairies and how ingrained they are into the lore and the history and the science of this world. This is a historical fantasy about Emily Wilde, who is writing an encyclopedia on fairies. She's a professor, and she's curmudgeon-y, and she meets some different fairies, some of which are malevolent and some of which are quite adorable. And there is also a spooky forest element and a reverse Grumpy Sunshine romance. I loved this book, and I loved the academia vibes, which I think add an extra perk when it comes to fall reading. Things do get quite creepy in this book, and some of the fairies are actually fairly scary, especially like the changeling in this. So just know that going in, this is not like a light fairy book. I mean, obviously, these are all dark books. Finally, I have one more book that I haven't picked up yet, but that is on my fall TBR, and that is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. Ava Reed, from what I know, basically is all of her books are dark cottagecore vibes, But this book specifically is inspired by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology. It follows this young pagan woman with hidden powers and a one-eyed captain of the woodsmen as they form an unlikely alliance to thwart a tyrant. This takes place in a forest-veiled pagan village, and there are monsters and a quest through the forest, I believe. So once again, a dark, foresty, from what I've heard, a bit scary and sometimes triggering book. So just for this one, make sure you check the trigger warnings. But I'm really looking forward to this. It says it's for fans of Naomi Novik and Catherine Arden, who are two of my favorite authors. So guys, that is it for my recommendations for dark cottagecore fantasy books. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want more of these. I do have more recommendations. I want to do one for romance/erotica and maybe even a cottagecore recommendations list for horror. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in. Don't forget to check out all of my links down below for my Patreon, Discord, my social media, and my Etsy. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Place, do you know how? Pass the paper, my desk is out.